Smile 2 is the kind of movie that has had very good marketing and it has been very clever in drawing interest for the movie. I will give it that at least, but does that really mean that it is necessarily a good movie? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. That's anyways what we will dive in to talk about today, and I will present a couple of arguments to build my opinion on this movie, which is that it is not worth the hype it has been getting. My first argument against this movie is the pop star problem. I feel this movie falls in the same trap as the movie ironically actually called Trap. We also have got this pop star horror thing which never really works. For me, the issue is mostly that you cannot really connect with the main character like you could in the first movie because you never really feel any sympathy for this main character, which just comes across as an arrogant superstar that thinks she is better than anybody when everything is going against her, and her mind is thinking all about his entity. Where in the first movie you felt that the main character there, who actually was a psychiatrist, then really became a patient herself, that you actually had a lot more sympathy for that particular character. When she went insane and she was convinced that there was this entity trying to take over her mind. My second problem with the movie is the too light horror problem. The first movie was actually very scary, where I had to convince myself what I saw was not real for a whole day after seeing the movie. While in this movie, it feels too toned down. You have got out a lot of those unexpected jump scares, and it just feels like a horror movie that is less intended to scare you. The main reason, perhaps, was that the first one tried to have a more psychological thriller horror approach, where you focused all about trauma. Where you in this movie perhaps focus more on the substance abuse and deeper into issues in your mind, which from my standpoint makes it into a weaker movie. For me, this one generally is very little scary as opposed to the first movie, where a lot of what happened felt way more unexpected. My third argument against it is the not entertained problem, where you focused on the pop star thing rather than horror. You got a lot of talk about his tour, the internal conflict with her mother that is a manager, and it seems like a classic mother trying to live a dream through somebody else. It kind of feels way more like a chick flick that tries to market itself as a horror movie rather than making it feel like an actual horror movie. Because yes, you see horror like in the first movie, but there's too much rehearsal, too much focus on these charity events and such where the main character loses it, rather than in the first movie where the main character see very much scary stuff alone. Of course, it happens in this movie as well, but not in the same scale, where it just feels like there's too much dialogue, where you just could have filled it out with more horror and jump scares instead. Another important issue with the movie is the lack of tension. Like I said, in the first movie, you had more jump scares, a lot more expected mood, where the main character fought against their own mind in a cabin when they much earlier did the investigation into this issue about the entity. And you also, of course, saw this therapist that suddenly was on top of her core. It was a movie that tried to build up scary moments, and it was a lot raw and tough to get through. But now it is perhaps a bit more toned down to get to those that are easily scared into horror movies as well. So that sometimes when it's tension, when all these violent people take her on, and towards the end when she is lured into the room by the entity in an event, which is not really real. By and large, however, it is very weak on attention as opposed to the first one. Furthermore, we have to talk about the no belief problem, where early on the main character in the first movie believed that there was something trying to kill her, like a foreign entity, which is also the same that was said by the mental patient that she got it from. In this one, however, the main character, Pop Sensation or whatever, Sky Riley, does not really believe in this evil entity until really late in the movie, which becomes a hard issue because it does not make it very good. It would have been better if she had believed in it earlier, because when the character in the first one tried to make everybody believe she was not crazy, that there was this entity thing trying to kill her, while in this one the main character just believed that she has lost it or she just has withdrawal symptoms or something. I also remember, like I said earlier, you had this investigation into the problem, which made it a bit tenser. You also have some sort of investigation part, but it is not something that feels important in a movie. My final issue will be the lead actor problem, where the role is played by Naomi Scott in an appearance where it is more about flashy makeup and expensive clothes rather than making a good act. The woman can't really act, and that is an issue which makes the performance overrated. Because the way she freaks out and shouts, it never seems natural. It seems over the top, and it is just not good acting. Even though many praise her for this, I would say that the performance is overrated once again. when the main character in the first one by Sosie Bacon is actually a much better act, where she makes the transition into going more and more insane way more natural. She also simply acts on a higher level as she tries to convince everybody that somebody is about to kill her. Lastly, I can't understand why this one did so well initially with 50k votes and 6.9 so far, while the first one just has 6.5 of course with about 200k votes, but nonetheless, that it's much better than Terrified 2, which has 6.1, of course, many more votes, and is one of the best horror movies, so that's kind of strange. But that kind of says all about the hype of this movie, which perhaps only does so well as a horror movie because they actually have just toned down everything, all the horror in it. That's why for me this one is a 3 out of 10, and it is only another movie that confirms how bad 2024 has been as a movie year right now.